How you doing, everyone? Here on this Saturday night, we welcome you all to another edition of the Wrestling Weekend Review. With the one and only Jade, I am Ace Monex. We're here to talk about the good, the bad, and the latest inside news that took place this week concerning the Monday night the Monday Night Wars. I wish I could talk about the Monday Night Wars if we were only back in the 90s, man. Yeah. Those were the great times. Those were the badass times. Yeah. The Wednesday Night Wars between NXT and AEW, and of course what happened this week with Monday Night Raw and Friday Night Smackdown. But before we start, anything that we say right here, it's strictly our opinion, and it does not reflect in any way our views with anyone on this platform or the wrestling companies that we talk about. And now, don't have a cow, man. All right, Jade, I think the first thing that we should address is this past Sunday Survivor Series. Of course, we did a live reaction towards it. We had to cut it short because, we wanted to have our full attention with the farewell to Undertaker, his segment, and of course, the very interesting talk with Undertaker and Stone Cold Steve Austin on their segment of the Broken Skull Sessions. One final round?
Yes, one final round.
I find it very, very interesting. I don't know if anyone else caught it on the network, but that thing was just a 2-hour session, and everything they talked about, from stuff that we already seen previously with the documentaries on Brothers of Destruction, with the sit down between Glenn Jacobs and Mark Calloway in that arena, that hall that they were in Austin, Texas, talking about, of how they met before they actually started in the WWF with the whole angle of Kane and Undertaker as it developed, throughout their history, supposedly in their 23-year stretch. And then, of course, another interesting point was finding out that Undertaker has a wine, Cabernet.
Yeah.
Cabernet out with the name Undertaker. I'm trying to find it on the net to see if it's somewhere available or if we got to order it online, because that's something that I want to try within this month, the next month in December, actually. Hopefully we can get our hands and just see how that is and give our reaction to that as well, because now with superstars nowadays, they want to get into something. They want to get into some venue where they can get a profit and, just want to start some sort of line, whether it be, liqueur, clothing, anything with superstars likeness and, make a profit out of it. So it's a good thing Undertaker's, still around doing stuff like that. And even after Survivor Series, there's still stuff on YouTube that has Mark Calloway a part of. Like, I understand that he tried a bunch of hot sauces and spice, from what my brother-in-law was telling me. I ran into that footage. I have it on my watch later, so I'm going to kill that tomorrow. Same thing with, I think People Magazine was interviewing Mark Calloway, and of course Michelle McCool. That's another thing to watch on YouTube. If you guys haven't caught that, search it on YouTube. That's something interesting, outside of WWE that you guys should check out, involving Mark Calloway, who played The Undertaker. But back to Survivor Series. In general, just to give a recap of the live reaction that we've done, we weren't really looking to anything forward except for the farewell to Undertaker and the champion versus champion match between Roman Reigns and Drew McIntyre. That match was very, very good, despite the interference with J Uso. I was expecting that, and obviously that added to the story for what happened last night on Friday Night Smackdown. We'll definitely get to that. The farewell to Undertaker, that's one thing that we haven't reviewed because we cut it shortly. My opinion, I think Undertaker, within his 30-year career, he's the only superstar that had an entrance and had an exit. And I don't think that there's going to be any other superstar in the face of wrestling that has a beginning and an end, the way that the Undertaker story was told. It couldn't have been done any better, but having to see, before Mark Calloway coming out as Undertaker and giving his final promo lines, seeing the guys from BSK, people that were Undertaker's victims, like Kevin Nash was there. I think it only lasted like a minute or two until they all disappeared, and then it was Vince McMahon coming out. And even when I saw Vince McMahon, I'm all like, man, he's not looking the same. It's only going to be a matter of time until he can no longer carry the reins of WWE. And if Vince McMahon is smart, this should be the time where he passes it over to Triple H, Stephanie, and Shane and all of that. That way they can take over. Because still the WWE has really nothing to work with right now. There's barely anything except for the Roman Reigns storyline, which is still going on really deep, really strong. That's the only thing that still have me watching the show Friday Night Smackdown. And there's other things that are opening up on Monday Night Raw, that this week, both shows have been going very plausible. Smackdown altogether this past Friday was decent. It was a very decent show. But, yeah, that's my take on Survivor Series. How about your opinion, Jade, on this segment on Farewell to Undertaker?
Well, pretty much I'm going to have to condense all that, especially with the whole show. And before I do, let me just say to all of you watching us right now on YouTube, I hope that we hope that you celebrate this Thanksgiving holiday very safe and securely with no hassles and no problems whatsoever. But nonetheless, back to the elephant in the room, as the old saying goes. The whole show before, I want to get to the farewell segment for the Undertaker. The whole card for Survivor Series was plausible in its own degree, pretty much from the beginning, with all the champion versus champion matches, especially how the Prophets pretty much say, okay, they pretty much got it on with the New Day, and it was a good tag match. And then at the end, the Prophets.
And yes, before sorry to cut you off, but yeah, like how I predicted, that match should be given to the Prophets because New Day, they already had the longest 3-4 year stretch, maybe more, of being the most popular tag team, and this is now the time for Street Profits to get into that spotlight and step up, their game.
Right, and of course we have to talk about the workhorse the workhorse championship match between Sami Zayn and Bobby Lashley, and frankly, even I knew Sami Zayn was no match for Bobby Lashley, especially with the Hurt Business on the outside of the ring.
Yeah, I knew Bobby Lashley was going to take it nonetheless. And involving the Hurt Business, yeah, that was an automatic given.
Yeah, and of course, I'll also like to talk about the best of the best, the women's match between Asuka and Sasha Banks, and they pretty much picked up on more they continued months ago when Sasha was aligned with Bayley at the time, and that same intensity was still there, and truly a great match with those two women's champions.
I'll give that one because Sasha was picking up momentum. She was getting more aggressive. Nonetheless, Asuka was barely catching up, so to speak. But I think Sasha dominated a little bit more in that match than Asuka, and that's what led her, to her win that night.
Right, and now I'm going to address the Survivor Series matches themselves. First off, the men's match is like we pretty much see Team Raw that pretty much consisted of the phenomenal AJ Styles and Riddle and Keith Lee and Sheamus and am I forgetting someone? Braun Strowman, the Monster Man. Of course, we're going to address him in this broadcast. And we saw Team SmackDown with Kevin Owens, with Otis, with Corbin, with and two more. I mean, it's
J Uso was a part of it.
J Uso. And
rename them all.
Well, I'll mention 4 games.
So that was J Uso, Otis. Who else?
Corbin.
King Corbin. Who else?
Sorry.
I don't think it matters because in my shocker here, I thought Team SmackDown was going to take it, just like how they have in the past with the past Survivor Series matches over the years. Because SmackDown was the one sending the trend for the wins every single year traditionally, and for the first time ever, Team Raw, if I'm not mistaken, this year Team Raw took it.
Yes,
they took it to my surprise. They acted as a team, and none of them were even eliminated. None of them from that side were eliminated. It was all from SmackDown. So Team Raw kept it together. I was in shock for that one. Probably, my face didn't show as much, on that live reaction video, but I had to rewatch it just to pay much attention because I'll state it right now. The live reaction video that we did this past Sunday, I apologize. There was a lot of interference. There was a lot of people coming in and disrupting. But it's not their fault. It was pretty much ours. We should have stated it from the beginning, no disruptions. And we got what it got. But amazingly, to you people, thank you very much for actually watching that video. Over past 150 views. 3 likes, 3 dislikes for the record. But still, it was what it was. Like I said, that event alone, we did not expect it much out of it except for 2 things. Was there any other matches you wanted to address in short recap?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I do want to address the women's Survivor Series match, and to pretty much, I'm gonna make this short. You pretty much got the Raw women's team, which pretty much consisted of the 2 co-captains, which was the women's tag team match, which was Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, and then you got the SmackDown women's team that pretty much Bayley was given the reins to. But and as far as that Survivor Series match, I never saw a match that was so intense, but at the same time, it's like you're pretty much got a Rubik's cube as to what's gonna be the colors. That no one knows what's gonna happen. It's like pretty much you got all the women going in there, and yes, all women, both from both teams gave it that, because whether it be Peyton Royce, whether it be Lacey, I'm trying not to remember, but whether it be Natalia, it's like pretty much it's like they pretty much got it on this, like from there, and there was good action, back and forth. Everybody participated, unfortunately, except Lana. Lana was the only one who did not.
No, take back. Don't forget, we watched WWE Chronicles. Don't forget that Lana was trained by Natalia, so we got to see that little spot where both of them were in that second. There was a little action right there. So we wanted to see, and even I said it right there. Let's see if the student could surpass the teacher. So there was back and forth for as long as it lasted, but at least there was action from them both. So to me, that kind of counted for something. Everything else was pretty much small potatoes. Now, to the end of that match, I had a prediction that Lana was going to be the saving grace for the team, but unfortunately, one of the 2 predictions that I had did not come true. They just kept Lana for the rest of that match outside, standing on the steel steps. They didn't do absolutely nothing. They told her just stand there and do absolutely nothing.
Yes, and I agree with you. And let me just say this on the upside. I mean, for Lana to get the decision for Team Raw as the sole survivor was way. However, it should have been done a little bit more plausible. It should have been like they could have just said, okay, so and so got knocked down, so and so got knocked down, and then from there she could have just said, "I'll just go in the ring and get the pin." But nonetheless, what it is what it is, and of course, I'm gonna pretty much put in my 2 cents on the best of the best and the heavyweight champion match. I mean, the way how Drew and Roman got it on, it was very intense. The way how both men were getting it on. And frankly, like you and like most of you watching us right now, I did expect a surprise too, but I did not expect it to be J Uso. But nonetheless, when Jay came to Roman's aid that night for that match, that pretty much sealed it for the head of the table after SmackDown. And last but not least, the tribute for the Undertaker, the Dead Man, the Phenom, the American Badass, if you will, and seeing all those faces, to see colleagues, to see friends, who Mark Calloway, the Undertaker, if you will, had established a rapport with us, because he pretty much said, "This, you're my friend backstage," and then but once it's go time, once you're in the ring, it's showtime. You got to give the fans what you want, because it doesn't matter if you were Rikishi, if you were Edge, if you were JBL, if you were King, if you were whoever, regardless of what show, including WrestleMania, the Mark Calloway, the Undertaker, will give it his own. He'll pretty much put on a show for the WWE universe, and he said this will be something everlasting. And to see all those faces out there paying tribute to a man who pretty much kept the WWE afloat for nearly 30 years is something that should be it should be commendable, because that's something that's never going to be taken away. It will always live on for ages to come. There's going to be a time capsule eventually, like 30 years, and if that time capsule is going to say, it's going to say Undertaker, there's going to be a lot of postcards, memorabilia, whatever, and it'll say, "My God, what a wrestler!" And the performances and the matches that this guy has put on.
Well, it's like I mentioned, Undertaker's days in the ring may be done, but he still has a longevity of a contract with WWE, so he's not going anywhere as far as being done with the WWE officially. He's no longer wrestling in the ring. He's just done with that. But everything else with doing appearances, doing likenesses, for items, merchandise, memorabilia, all that stuff. Obviously, that's still going to go a long way for as long as Mark Calloway can, is still in good health and to do all of that. So it's most obvious he's not going to go anywhere, because he's locked in with WWE for a very good while. So with that said, having to do the short recap of Survivor Series, we jumped into Monday Night Raw, because at the top of the show, I remember Adam Pearce starting out with Team Raw, the winners. Everyone from Styles to Keith Lee, Riddle, Sheamus, to the man of the hour, Braun Strowman. The original intent for Adam Pearce to have all of the guys there is obviously not to hear another flawn of calling Fireface or whatever, all those crazy nicknames that Riddle came up with. But most importantly, they were going to get rewarded for doing a good deed for their brand and for the team. So obviously, they were going to get rewarded with championship shots, I guess, every single individual, or I don't know how all of that was going to come about until Braun Strowman pretty much got into Adam Pearce's space, and they were arguing, they were bickering. Well, it's mostly Strowman to Adam Pearce, just pretty much screaming at him out loud, and until it ended up, with a headbutt towards Adam Pearce, and he got knocked out, very nasty, and of course the segment ended with Adam Pearce coming back from commercial, stating that he don't know what's going to happen to Braun Strowman. But, security ejected him from the building. And I called it. I mentioned to you that if it was up to me, if I was Adam Pearce, I would have him automatically suspended and without pay indefinitely. And look what happened a couple of days later. He got suspended indefinitely. So let me jump into the story because there's also another part to this as far as Braun Strowman's angle is concerned. And you're going to hear some things that you probably did not expect, but because, we're in that topic, you're probably going to say, it could make sense if they go that route. But let me get into the story. So it says, of course, Braun Strowman has been suspended for that night's Raw episode. We saw the Raw Men's Survivor Series team in the ring, and Adam Pearce asked them to state, they were supposed to state why they should be the next challenger to go against Drew McIntyre and get a shot at the WWE Championship. Strowman was the last to speak and was upset that he was called last but not least, quote unquote. He then grabbed Pearce and ultimately headbutted him as well. Strowman was escorted out of the ring after that fact. Since Raw, WWE has announced that Braun Strowman has been suspended indefinitely by the company. So this was what was tweeted through WWE Digital. WWE Digital has learned that Braun Strowman has been suspended indefinitely for putting his hands on WWE official Adam Pearce. Strowman took exception with Pearce's plan for awarding a WWE Championship opportunity and lashed out at the WWE official. So it was reported that Strowman was slated as of Monday to possibly challenge for the WWE Championship at TLC coming up in December. Strowman now being suspended does put a wrench in that. Maybe Strowman could be the challenger at the Royal Rumble in January. So it all depends on where this angle is going to go because I believe that the plan was to have Braun Strowman go one-on-one with Drew McIntyre for the title at TLC in the month of December. But we don't know if it's going to go that way or if they're going to leave it to where he will go against Drew McIntyre or Strowman will go against McIntyre at the Royal Rumble. That we don't know. So that is still pretty much undecided. But in this story, of course, there was nothing about the tweets and how Braun Strowman responded and then how Adam Pearce responded after that. So, let me jump into this one real quick. Because I also heard rumors that supposedly Braun Strowman was dealing with an injury and he might have suffered it this past Sunday at Survivor Series. So let me see right here. Yeah, here it is. So here's the other story. So the original TLC main event may be off. The next WWE pay-per-view event, which will be TLC on December 20th, the original plan was, as of Monday afternoon, this past Monday afternoon, for Braun Strowman to challenge McIntyre for the championship. Then, of course, they did the storyline where Strowman was suspended and the tournament was started without him to crown the next number one contender. So they did that. And, of course, we'll get into the review of those three matches that we've seen because they were just stupendous to watch. They really were. So it was reported that Strowman may have suffered a knee injury. That he may have suffered a knee injury this past Sunday at Survivor Series, forcing those plans that they have for him to change for TLC. So the tournament got started on Raw, and all of that was done as a last-minute decision to crown the next challenger for McIntyre in case Strowman is in fact injured and cannot compete next month. So there is a chance that Strowman is not injured, but because there is a fact that he could be, they needed to do something else as far as that title match angle is concerned for TLC. So if they do go with the winner of that tournament, which is that triple threat match coming up this Monday on Raw, then that person will challenge McIntyre for the title. So it could be either AJ Styles, Keith Lee, or Riddle. The three of them, like I mentioned, they will meet in a triple threat match this Monday on Raw to determine who will be the number one contender. So while we're at it, those three matches that we seen to qualify for the triple threat match, if I can recall, the last one was AJ Styles versus Randy Orton. Sheamus faced Riddle. Keith Lee faced Bobby Lashley. Now, let's begin with Riddle and Sheamus. Oh my God. These two guys already stepped it up a notch. In that match, they stepped it up once again. So, the last time that they met on Smackdown, if you thought that was something, I mean, I'm sure you can remember that match.
Yeah.
The one that happened on Monday, this past Monday on Raw, they just raised the roof on that one. They raised the volume on that one, and it became something epic. So this one really was going to lead Riddle into that fact where he can be one of the contenders. So there was just a lot of back and forth, hard hitting, a lot of blocking. I mean, Sheamus was answering to Riddle's every move and call and did a block and probably answered back. There were times where, answerings were misfired and there were blockings. I mean, they were moving all around back and forth. But, Riddle was determined to show why he was going to be the guy to win that match.
And let me just say that in that first qualifying match between the Celtic Warrior and Riddle, when these two men faced off on SmackDown, it was like we mentioned, it was a great match. But of course, it's clearly evident that Riddle now knew who he was dealing with at the time. So therefore, he had to up his game against the Celtic Warrior. And so, and I agree with you, man. It was a great match, and the arsenal that Riddle brought to Sheamus in that match was really great. And there was a lot of technical moves, and that's pretty much what got Riddle the victory, and that is why he is one of the two men who's vying for the WWE Championship.
The match between Bobby Lashley and Keith Lee. Now that one was something else. They had something cooking right there because that was the first meeting ever between these two guys. I mean, these two guys are absolute powerhouses in their own right. Bobby Lashley is just strong and masculine, but Keith Lee, I mean, you don't want to say anything bad about Keith Lee, but hey, he's got his weight support. He's got his own methods. He's got the way he wants to do some moves, finish matches, and all that stuff. But nonetheless, just seeing them two together, it was truly a test of strength to see who was a hard hitter, who really had the force, and who really was just strong between the two of them. I thought Keith Lee was going to be the one to win it, and I wasn't wrong. But still, if it would have went down straight up without MVP's interference, we would have had a golden match. We probably would have had one of the top 10 matches for this year. But MVP had to step in and kill it. They did not know what the heck to do right there. They really buzzkilled a really good match because I was into it all the way. And I don't know who the hell whose idea that was to screw it up at the very end, because here I thought we were going to have a really good, decent match just to see who was going to be the hard hitter, who was going to take it all the way. And it just ended up being a flop, the finish. But still, Keith Lee won and made it to advance to the triple threat.
Yes, and that also agree with you. I mean, but aside from the outcome. And I know it was a good outcome. Both Keith and Bobby, they took it to each other. They were taking it on in the ring, outside the ring, to the barricade, to the steps, wherever. It's like it's like no matter how hard Bobby tried to take Keith down, Keith always rises up. He just shows how tough he is, which is why he calls himself Limitless. And Bobby trying to bring every arsenal that he caught. I mean, everything here, from suplexes and chokes, even his trademark dominator, I guess, to some people call it. But you cannot take into account how tough, how versatile the Limitless Keith Lee is, because no matter how try you put him down, he always finds ways to get back up. And yes, out of all the matches all the matches that Keith Lee had on the main roster, truly this would be one that will go down as one of the greatest possibly in his career.
And then the last match that took place, which was AJ Styles and Randy Orton. That one really took the cake because AJ spruced it up a whole lot more. And yes, that was another worthy WrestleMania rematch, because we already seen it, about a year or two ago that took place?
Yes.
And here they are again doing a round two. And my God, these guys, they raised the bar as well, because AJ and Randy, they were just outstanding working together. There's just that sort of element needed that they know very well on how they can definitely work in a match, doing a spot or doing some type of move, and they create, some memory about it. And also with Bray Wyatt's involvement as the Fiend, that just added a lot of ambiance into the match. Because, the Fiend is not that far away and he's going for Randy Orton. So, with that said, we already knew who was going to win that match and who was going to be a part of the triple threat for next week. And even before that, off of those three matches, we seen the fiendish Alexa Bliss taking on Nikki Cross. The way that match was told, I mean, it was obviously something psychological, and Bliss really told that story so well, and suckering Nikki with tears and that emotional state, saying, "Oh, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. Like, I don't know what happened to me. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I didn't mean to, to go this way and hurt you and da-da-da." I mean, like, really suckered her in until she fell for it and just got her right there, and that was it. So I don't know if that's going to be the end of it between them, but I think it'll probably continue unless if someone steps into the Fiendish's face and go after Alexa Bliss. But nonetheless, back to the Fiend, obviously, him and Orton. That's going to be a possibility match for TLC coming up in December.
No doubt about it, because no matter how hard the Viper tried to shake off the specter of Bray Wyatt, it constantly comes back to bite him. But I want to address the way how that match was orchestrated, and I want to say that, like I mentioned, because I've always supported the phenomenal AJ Styles ever since his days in TNA, and that was the one thing that Randy Orton was constantly doing to AJ. He was constantly underestimating him, saying like, you're nothing but a small time player. But all his years in all of the entire circuit, be it TNA, be it Ring of Honor, Mexico, Japan, AJ Styles worked his ass off just to make it in this business. Now, Randy Orton can gloat about all of his accomplishments, all his accolades, everything. But one thing he cannot do is underestimate competition, and that is what the phenomenal AJ Styles is. The phenomenal AJ Styles proved how competitive he is, and that was the first thing that the Viper knows ever since they squared off at WrestleMania, because they were like they're like philosophically they were different, but it's what the phenomenal AJ Styles could bring to the table. And even though he fell short, I'm guessing he fell short in that one match, but he brought the AJ Styles that I like, that I admire seeing, that I like to see, and I'm pretty sure all of you like to see, and that qualifying match. And despite the fact I'm saying right now, despite the fact that the Fiend, I guess interfered, because he didn't technically interfere, he just spooked the Viper, but nonetheless, the Phenomenal One took advantage of the distraction, and that is how he took the win, and that is where we got ourselves in an interesting situation for this upcoming Monday, because it is Riddle, it is Keith Lee, and it is the phenomenal AJ Styles, and only one man can challenge Drew McIntyre for TLC.
Yeah, AJ, no matter what, he's always going to be phenomenal, despite the name. Yeah, AJ worked his ass off. Doesn't matter where he goes. It's all about creating his legacy in wrestling. And AJ always wanted to come to WWE, but it was all about a matter of timing. But before that, he was perfecting his craft in so many companies and so many territories, so many indie wrestling organizations. I mean, AJ was creating his own path to get to this point because that's how good he is. I always knew that he was very good. Seeing him in TNA, he was just great. Same thing with going to Japan after that. I haven't seen his stuff from Mexico yet, but hopefully, I run into that stuff. But in Japan, obviously, he's got some outstanding matches there that I recall seeing. It was just great stuff. Also in Ring of Honor as well. Until he landed in WWE, and he had some great matches, in the company of WWE, and that's not going to stop. And he, from what I understand, if I recall, he still has a little bit more until he decides when to hang up his boots. I don't know if that's still part of his plan, but knowing AJ, only he can decide when it's time for him to hang up his boots and focus on his family and other stuff. But nonetheless, that was Monday Night Raw, amongst other things. There was one other thing that we want to address, and that'll be the last thing amongst things that we already seen this past Monday. When it involved with Lana, I think she was her story about being the sole survivor. Obviously, that was caught someone on fire or whatever. Maybe people don't see that Lana's a huge thing or whatever. And obviously she's not, but she's getting some sort of talk momentum and all that stuff after what happened at Survivor Series. But nonetheless, it was coming to the point where I forgot who interviewed him. Somebody interviewed her, and it went along the lines of, with what's going on with the guys, maybe it's going to happen to you too. Maybe you want to challenge Asuka for the Raw Women's title. I was like, no, I don't want to do that. I just want to bask in my glory and, celebrate my win. And so then afterwards, a little bit after, then Asuka stepped up to her and said, I heard you want to challenge for my title. I was like, no. She's like, no, I don't want to do that. Well, guess what? I like a challenge, and I will see you in the ring. So then, of course, they had another good match, decent match. And then, of course, like how I expected, the women's tag team champions came out and just, pretty much wanted to kill it for them. But then, of course, we were seeing this alliance forming between Asuka and Lana when it looked like Nia Jax was going to put Asuka through the table with a Samoan drop, and Lana, I don't know how the heck that happened, but I guess her heart, her gut instinct just went and saved Asuka, and already she has a friend. So now in that angle, maybe we might have another team forming that can go after the WWE Women's Tag Team belts.
Frankly, I don't know what was the reason why, because And I don't and first of all, I just want to say I don't blame Lana for being mad at Sami. Yes, she was the lone survivor under mysterious circumstances. But the reason why I feel that she did not wanted to challenge Asuka for the Raw title is because she knew that Nia Jax was gonna go after her. But nonetheless, Asuka was the one that's like, okay, I said, like, if you're lucky as your dick is, you are. Face me for the Raw Women's title, and that's and I would say I just want to say the first time these two faced off at the Raw Women's title, they had a good match, both Lana and the Empress of Tomorrow, and then came this match, which I'm not gonna say it's a rematch of sorts, but it's their second clash between each other. They brought it out, but once again, so driven to be in the spotlight, consumed by ego, Nia Jax decided to kill everything, and she just wanted to take it out on Asuka. Well, to bring Asuka for a change, but then, like what was mentioned, it was Lana who came to Lana to Asuka's aid and said, "No, you're not gonna do that to her," and pretty much. That's where like there's a common ground of sorts between the Ravishi Russian and the Empress of Tomorrow. Like pretty much they're sick and tired of Nia Jax and Shayna because they're constantly running roughshod over Raw as it they own it. And that was the case to say, okay, how come if you're as tough and menacing as we think you are, how come you don't do it to the ladies on SmackDown? How come you don't do it to the ladies of NXT? It's like pretty much is like they want to show the way, and I just want to point out that between Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, despite the fact that they're holding the women's tag match, both of them wanted a shot at Asuka and the Raw Women's Championship. But right now, let's see where this scenario cooks up, because eventually Nia she's pretty much going to create a pit, and within a matter of time, she's going to wallow in that same pit, because no matter who she tries to bully, intimidate, Alana is going to get sick and tired of being bullied and intimidated by her. There comes a time where she's going to rise up and just go out there and say, I didn't want to do this, but I'm sick and tired of being the butt of your jokes. I'm sick and tired of you underestimating me. You got no idea who you're dealing with. And eventually there comes a time where the irresistible force will get her comeuppance.
Yeah, because to be honest, I didn't want to see Lana get Samoan dropped on the table for the 10th time. Then when the hell is it going to ever end?
Right.
So it's a good thing that story got a little bit twisted. Now Lana is, signing with Asuka. And like I said, maybe we're going to see them going after the women's tag team titles, because quite honestly, there's really not a lot of women's tag teams right now. And WWE is doing this stupid thing where they're just pairing up to see who can click and go with it. Or if it doesn't click, to see if it'll still go with it. And, there goes the segment for that. So they got something in the works, but we'll see how they're going to make it go of this. So from that, we move to SmackDown. And from what we witnessed last night, of course, J Uso coming in, wanted to bring out his cousin Roman Reigns and all of that. But we're seeing, and you missed it, but you should have seen how Roman still in his oozing confidential tone of voice, speaking to Jay and saying how he screwed up with the men's team of SmackDown from Survivor Series, how they did not respect him. And if they don't respect him, they're not respecting Jay and Roman. He said that together. Like, they're not respecting the family and da-da-da. The same lines. And he threw in very smartly that he feels like he's the bitch that's trying to get Thanksgiving leftovers. It's like, I'm not that guy. I am not that guy. It's like, if there is a big-ass feast, I'm going to go for the goods. I'm not going to go for leftovers. I'm going to go for that freaking breast. I'm going to go for that leg. I'm going to go for the, I mean, obviously in a different terms and sense, but I saw where he was going. I mean, just how everything was put dynamically in words. I mean, it's very gripping. That storyline, they're still going with, they're still raising the roof on that one. They're still enticing you. They're still hooking you into that. They're not going to let you slip when you got something really good boiling in the water for it to stew just right. So just to get back into that work, Roman was disgusted because he thought that J Uso was doing him a favor by interfering in this match at Survivor Series when that wasn't the case. So what Roman was trying to say is, the guys that you were rolling with for Team Smackdown, they don't respect you. What are you going to do about it? You know what you need to do. So then Roman and Paul left. And Paul didn't say a word. He was just watching, looking at Roman, whether it be in fear or whether agreeing with everything that Roman was saying. Then once they left, then of course, 1 or 2 seconds later, then, Jay left the ring. Then the first match was about to start. It was supposed to be Otis and King Corbin. So then what happened was, of course, Jay was eyeballing Otis, and they were a part of Team SmackDown. And then it took not 1 or 2 seconds later, and Roman came out with a steel chair and started bashing on Otis. Bashing on Otis, man. Like sick. Like, damn, man. Like, whack, 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 whack. And, the whole 9 yards, man. Just whack the out of him. Like, nuts. Crazy, man. And insane psycho type of thing, And then, of course, that progressed later in the night, of course, as we saw backstage with Roman. No, actually, that was before. Then, of course, that led to the match with Sami Zayn and Daniel Bryan. Of course, we're going to, with Roman and Jay talking, I'll just jump to where Sami Zayn was already running on the outside of the ring, almost towards the entrance ramp, and luring Daniel Bryan over there, only to come back out. And I believe Sami Zayn won by countout. And that was it. But Daniel Bryan never made it out. He was getting bashed in that section where normally I think that would be the gorilla section. Daniel Bryan was getting pummeled by J Uso. Kevin Owens came in and tried to break it up. And then, of course, Kevin and J Uso, they were getting at it. So then went to commercial, and then, of course, then it went with outside of Roman's locker room. Jay and Roman, they were talking, and then KO came in, started talking about, so this is how it is, your family, you treat your family like crap, da-da-da. And there we go again. It's like Roman looking at Jay like, you know what to do. But then, just to make it more official, Paul Heyman went to Adam Pearce. It's like, you got to make this match. KO versus J Uso. They had their match. It was a very, very good match. Very incredible match. But at the very end, it was KO that got the win. And he was the one returning fire, sending a message to Roman. And, of course, Roman, he had to stay still. He had to stay where he was just to make that whole story enticing. Like, okay, he's like, Roman is saying Jay is all about family, but what the heck is Roman doing standing there? He shouldn't be going. Yeah, the head of the table is staying where he's at, watching his cousin being smacked, pummeled in the dad with a steel chair by Kevin Owens.
Well, pretty much from what transpired last Sunday's Survivor Series, Jay pretty much has been under the microscope because, unfortunately, since his cousin, the champion, since he's the better man and the head of the table, and he pretty much deemed that Jay has to defend the family, and that's what pretty much did not exactly happen. So pretty much Roman was trying to make Jay look good by taking out Daniel Bryan, taking out Otis, taking out whoever did not respect the head of the chief, the family, if you will,
the bloodline.
The bloodline, yes. So therefore, and you can't blame Kevin Owens for getting fed up. It's like he was already fed up with all the bullying, all the intimidation from Roman Reigns, that he decided to say, okay, and that was what led to after the match but actually before the match, I would say just before the match, how Kevin Owens got right up to Roman's face and say, well, pretty much I say, like other stuff, that this is how you treat your family. Like say this
pretty much facing the camera and sending the message to Roman.
and that's pretty much him saying it's like you like look at you like you're full of yourself and all that stuff. And then so therefore I'm gonna go right to the end. It's like, yeah, Kevin Owens and Uso, and then right at the end when Kevin was constantly bashing on Jay over and over, constantly nearly tearing him to pieces. And then so right there, Kevin Owens sat right at the broadcast table, stared at the camera, coldly right at to Roman, and I'm gonna do a abbreviation. Not my best imitation will say like this: "Come here, Roman. I'm the head of this table, right here." He pretty much was telling Roman, it said, I already took care of your cousin. I want a piece of you. And if he's saying to Roman he wants a shot at the Universal Championship, that's probably that match probably might be on the horizon.
Yeah, that could happen. But the point of the whole message was supposedly Roman wants everybody in the SmackDown locker room to fear him. But Kevin Owens is standing up and saying, I don't fear anyone, much less you. That's the bottom line for that story. Now, speaking of that story, I'm hearing that while Roman is on the rise with this story, a very good storytelling, by the way. Hopefully they keep this up, and hopefully they don't F this up. But they also, I also heard that for the Usos, once Jimmy comes back, WWE is also going to have plans for them to take them to the next level. So I hope this is where now with Jimmy coming in, we have a trio faction of a strong bloodline where they take care of business, take names, and kick ass, and let the locker room know, hey, we're here. You better get in line before you get your ass kicked. Pretty much. That's how all the thing is coming about. Now, excuse me, I have in front of me supposedly the story of who could be Roman Reigns' next opponent. I believe that would be for the upcoming pay-per-view TLC. So the story goes, a match everyone is expecting may have been pushed back. Since before Survivor Series, WWE started putting the thought in the fans' heads that, yeah, supposedly Daniel Bryan could be the next challenger to Roman Reigns. But with the way everything was going, I didn't feel any connection with Daniel Bryan to be that guy. Despite the fact that J Uso to unleash himself as a heel and get over on Daniel Bryan with whacking him with a steel chair, I didn't feel like Daniel Bryan was going to be the guy to get in Roman Reigns' face and say, oh, I'm me and you for the title. No, I did not felt that at all. Otherwise, then he wouldn't be or they wouldn't be putting him in matches and leaning almost towards to get at Sami Zayn for the Intercontinental Championship. Because that's another thing too. So back to the story. We saw J Uso defeat Bryan to earn a spot for the Survivor Series team. Then Roman directed Uso to further beat down Bryan. That happened 4 weeks ago.
I think so.
Then, of course, we saw Bryan defeat Uso on Smackdown. That was the following week. So then it has been reported a Universal title match between Roman Reigns and Daniel Bryan is planned, but the match may not be happening at TLC in December. They have maybe leaning this towards doing that for the Royal Rumble in January instead. But as far as TLC goes, nothing has been set for that show. We know the challenger to WWE Champion Drew McIntyre, of course, may be determined with the triple threat match coming up this Monday night, if you will. So, with the way we're seeing that Kevin Owens is calling out Roman and all of that, and pretty much just taking a stand, I believe it could be Kevin Owens, the guy who's going to face Roman Reigns for the title at TLC pay-per-view. So that story's going on strong. Keep it going, guys. You know, I'm on board with it all the way. What else did I recall that we saw? We saw the match with Daniel Bryan and Sami Zayn. Carmella did a promo, and Sasha Banks finally got her revenge, thank God, because otherwise it would have been another week of, but then it wouldn't make sense because how the heck are you going to have Carmella come out, do a promo when I felt it? I'm like, she's got to come here. So, yeah, seeing that hand, it was obvious to flip it over and show the boss knuckle rings. It's like, yeah, revenge time for the boss. So boss time on revenge. We saw that. That one was pretty good. When Rude and Dolph Ziggler came out, they were obviously calling out for the Street Profits. They had a good match, and to my surprise, as sneaky as they were, Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode defeated the Street Profits. Could that be for contingent to go after the tag titles? It's a possibility. Maybe that could happen at TLC. We don't know. Yeah, but like I said, the SmackDown episode, it was decent. Same thing with the Raw episode. So hopefully they keep this up pretty much because they got some good things going as far as storyline-wise is, what's going on with Orton and The Fiend. Who's going to face Drew McIntyre? That triple threat match is going to be, I feel it's going to be really spectacular because you got three guys that really never faced each other when it comes to a triple threat. Although AJ faced Riddle one time on SmackDown. But none of those two guys ever crossed Keith Lee. So it's going to be very interesting to see who's going to have the upper hand here with these three. So that's for Raw. I can't wait to see that one. For SmackDown, the Roman Reigns Tribal Chief storyline with J Uso included. I heard that they're going to make Jay a huge heel megastar. So hopefully it works out great for him. Like I said, when Jimmy comes back, they're going to make the Usos go into the next level, and hopefully we get these three to be one spectacular trio heel group. That I can't wait to see once that takes place. And that's it for those two shows. So we're going to talk last what's been going on with the Wednesday Night Wars. AEW NXT, although I have nothing as far as a story is concerned, but we can only give our opinion. To me, both episodes, I don't know if you checked. Have we checked both shows?
Well, NXT a little bit, AEW more. Okay,
well, both shows to me, they were very decent, and I think especially with War Games coming in, I think that one's going to be very interesting to see because Undisputed Era and Undisputed Era.
We apologize, technical difficulties.
And the Kings of NXT That one's going to be an interesting match, and it's already going to be 1 week from this Sunday coming up on the network. So that's one that I'm interested in watching, and knowing the fact that Undisputed Era is going to kick some serious ass. It's going to be another dominance for the Undisputed Era to go against Oney Lorcan, Pete Dunne, Pat McAfee, and Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch. I don't know what the hell am I forgetting his name, but yeah, Oney Lorcan and
Danny Burch.
Yeah.
Yes, and I just want to say that that for the last I guess for the last month, McAfee and his guys have been running roughshod over NXT, saying, "Oh yeah, it should be our domain, it should be our kingdom." But pretty much when it comes to a group that is synonymous with dominance and kicking ass and all that, no doubt about it, you have to mention the Undisputed Era. And for the last and like it was week after week since McAfee and his guys constantly picked up, but once again, and then right there when they least expected, that they are whole together, and now business will pick up as the Undisputed Era will face McAfee and his guys in the traditional war games match, and history said history said that Undisputed Era has competed in every war games match. We don't know about their track record and victories, though. I mean, they could have wins and losses, but there's no doubt about it. These guys are always game for the war games matches and for NXT TakeOver.
Yeah. So we can't wait for War Games to commence for this upcoming 1 week from Sunday. Of course, for the first time ever, Women's War Games is going to be also included. Candice LeRae already set her team. Now we wait to see Shotzi Blackheart set her team up. But the thing of it is Ember Moon's already out on injury, and there was other people that Candice LeRae and her team have already been taken out. So we already saw Candice LeRae comprise her team of Raquel Gonzalez, Dakota Kai, and for the sake of myself, I mean, I kind of felt when Toni Storm went out this past Wednesday and supposedly helped Ember Moon even out the odds against Indy Hartwell, Dakota Kai, Raquel Gonzalez, and Candice LeRae. Something told me that Toni Storm was going to be the one to backstab Ember Moon. And boy, I was like, now Toni Storm. Geez, are we going to have more heels than baby faces now? So, but still, you got a formidable team in Candice LeRae's team for War Games. And supposedly I heard that Shotzi Blackheart, her team is going to be just as calibrated as theirs. So I can't wait to see this Wednesday who is going to be a part of her team. And other things. Also, the angle going on with the new NXT North American champion with Leon Ruff.
Yes.
Leon Ruff. This kid already is getting all the attention, and we don't know that much about him except that he used to be, he wrestled elsewhere before coming to NXT, and now he's getting this exposure as the NXT North American champion. I smell that there's going to be a triple threat match going to take place for NXT TakeOver War Games, where it'll involve Leon Ruff, Johnny Gargano, and Damian Priest. So it's just a matter of GM of NXT, William Regal, to make it official. So it's going to be interesting to see how that dynamic with those three is going to come about in this upcoming NXT.
Well, let me just address a couple of things about that telecast tonight. It looks like this Gargano-LeRae couple will do everything it takes to make sure the chips fall the way. And yes, Candice LeRae can't wait to shine on the NXT Women's roster. Johnny can't wait to get his hands back on that North American Championship. But pretty much the way how it all looks down last Wednesday's telecast is like you pretty much see that and the mystery.
Absolute Ricky Starks, and now with the addition of Will Hobbs, so that's gonna be. You got a very good, formidable trio going up against the Nightmare Family with Cody at the helm. But from what we saw this past Wednesday, Taz's gripe is the FTW title hasn't been acknowledged because it's not a title like the AEW title or the World Tag Team title. It's just pretty much not in the AEW scope of things. And that's what Taz is pissed off about. And he's got every right, but FTW is the belt that's been in ECW and now in AEW to make it well known amongst its players in the AEW roster.
Well, all I just want to say about that is that not to say that I know anything about this man, about Taz, Peter Sinatra, if you will, but this is a guy that pretty much prided himself on being one of the better wrestlers in the entire industry, and this is a guy who pretty much cut teeth everywhere. I mean, from his upbringings in the now defunct ECW, not going to WWE, and it looked like they for whatever reason there are bosses or promoters that overlook the guy and say, "Oh yeah, you're not a main caliber wrestler and all that," and pretty much this is my take from that segment. Last Wednesday, Taz Peter, I'll just call by his name Peter. He was just constantly, he was just shooting about his prowesses and everything as to say why you're not acknowledging me, why you're not acknowledging the FTW championship that I pretty much created, because that's pretty much that's his spirit. That's what he embodies, because he always says, he always says afterworld, because that's pretty much his way of saying for all the bosses, all the promoters who say you're not a main caliber wrestler and all that, and he just says F you, I'm gonna prove myself to you. But the way how he said it, and yes, he's pretty much taking the powerhouse, I guess we can call him now, Will Hobbs, and Ricky Starks and Brian Cage. It's pretty much he's seeing himself in these wrestlers. I'm not gonna say underrated, but severely underestimated by a certain system.
These guys got talent.
Yes, yeah,
they're very talented. Like I said, we seen Ricky Starks and NWA Power. He's a very good wrestler. Good thing AEW caught him. Oh, and on top of that, like I mentioned earlier, WWE wanted to get their hands on Ricky Starks, but he went out to AEW because he knew that if he would have went to WWE, he could have been misused, probably not used at all.
And that's pretty much his great, because he knows where the system is like. But then he looks at the AEW system and says, "You guys are no different than the company that pretty much chumped me out," because that was his dream since 2000. He wanted to make. Not to say he wanted to say more money. He wanted the opportunity to shine, because that was the reason why he left ECW in 1999, because he felt it was time for him to shine. But nonetheless, it's like he still felt blackballed or ostracized by the management, if you will. And that's pretty much what it was, because from ECW to WWE and to a short stint in TNA, if you will. But nonetheless, Peter Sinatra is a very passionate guy. But I have to say my opinion, respectively, I don't condone all the words he said, because AEW is trying to be its own company. It's trying to form its own identity. They're forming its own stars, and pretty much to say like, yeah, you'll be like, oh yeah, you feel wrong by your system. You feel
one another. They may be a pair, but these two are like two peas in a pod, but they're different nonetheless. But still, it was a very good match between Cheetah and, of course, Anna Jay. Hopefully, we will see more of Anna Jay when that time comes. Number 4, Of course, we already talked about it. The storyline between Taz and Cody. Number 3, the match with Hybrid 2 and Top Flight. Now that's another one where from last week we saw the Bucks go against Top Flight. Top Flight was already put on live television. Sparks flew up, and they were going back and forth. Man, it was 2 different type of styles, but the Bucks carried all that experience and weight and outshined Top Flight. Nonetheless, Top Flight deserves to be on prime time. They're getting their exposure. They're getting their time. And going and seeing them against Hybrid 2, it was just sensational stuff. But we knew that Hybrid 2, they're onto something right here, and that's why all eyes are on them right now, as well as Top Flight.
Well, Top Flight pretty much proved themselves when they in that AEW champion in the AEW tag match against the current tag holders, the Young Bucks. These two brought it on as much as they can, but after the match, pretty much sick and tired of being below the tag team ladder was none other than the Hybrid 2, and when those two brought on that cowardly attack to Top Flight, and truly they impressed me. Top Flight truly impressed me. This like we got another brotherly duel versus another brotherly duel, but nonetheless, Top Flight is showing how, not to say Top Flight, but the Hybrid 2 is showing how envious and jealous they're becoming of seeing not just of the Young Bucks, but other tag teams like what is Jurassic Express, what is SCU, what are others getting all the victories, and they're pretty much not getting anything. And last Wednesday, they try to prove everything they can, and yes, they gave Top Flight a match and they won the match, but it's like they could have just settled with just being victorious, but they were not. They did not just settle with the win. They just started pummeling the Top Flight at the end of the night, and that's when the Bucks came. But pretty much what the Hybrid 2 should do is like, okay, you want to prove your point, yeah, you win matches, and then hopefully you start earning respect. Then we don't respect them any less, but unfortunately, if they keep going the way they are, little by little they're going to lose the fans' respect.
That's right. So we definitely expect to see more out of Top Flight. TH2, they're not going to be far away. They're still going to come and be obnoxious, but still, all of their action in the ring speaks for itself when it comes to Angelico and Jack Evans.
Yes.
Oh my God, I remember their names, but I can't remember the others from WWE. It's like, well, but at least when we're in the moment and try to relive those images in our head, I mean, it was a spectacular match. Hopefully we see some good high-flying action coming up this week with AEW and Dynamite. And speaking of which, number 2, winter is coming. The angle with Jon Moxley, the AEW World Champion, with Kenny Omega. So pretty much that's number 2 moment of the week. From what I can recall, from what we've seen this past Wednesday, Kenny Omega was doing an interview with Alex Marvez.
Yes.
And of course, as the cleaner, the arrogant type of guy who's showing shades of himself from Japan, he started coming out with such verbiage. But then it came down to the point of, your daddy could be my daddy. What the heck are we witnessing here? Another Bret Hart versus Curt Hennig story? We already seen this twice. Once in WWE, and we've seen it once in WCW. What is this, a rehash or something? But it's already what's going down to Excalibur. He come running down. Of course, he was going to go after Pac because that was so obvious. There's been that gripe already ever since the pandemic, and ever since, I believe, about a month or 2 ago. It was about a month where Eddie Kingston just called out Pac's name for the heck of it, while the Lucha Brothers were in his stable, a part of his family. And not to think that there's going to be any business settled, but it looks like it was going to be settled this past Wednesday. And Eddie Kingston took it to Pac as the coward that he was. But hey, that's the street common thug for you in Eddie Kingston. And that's what I like about Eddie Kingston. He straight up shows you how it is. But I also like Pac's style, even though I despise Pac as a character. But in the time of now, whether he's still that heel, and there's no baby face or gray area within this section here. Pac wants to really go at it with Eddie Kingston here, but nonetheless, just to finish this angle out, Butcher and Blade, Kingston had the upper hand on Rey Fenix, Pac, and even Pentagon Jr. came down in Cero Miedo. He came down to fend for his team, but everybody was down at that point. And then all of a sudden, Lance Archer came out. Lance Archer came out and started beating up on Butcher, Blade, and even Eddie Kingston. And they were wondering why. JR was mentioning, why is he out there? Even Tony was already wondering. They all were wondering, why the heck is he there? And then it made sense, because ever since that one match that took place at All Out, I believe, where they had that Battle Royal, and Lance Archer won it. But, of course, Eddie Kingston had the defense that he was never eliminated from it. So he always made that statement. He was never eliminated from it. Okay, so I get that. And then, now we got something to gripe about between Lance Archer and Eddie Kingston. So I don't think he was there for to defend El Triángulo de la Muerte, the Death Triangle, but he was there to settle the score with Eddie Kingston and just to see how good he is. My opinion. That's what I think he was there for.
Yes, and I just want to point out that in that tag match, like mentioned, Eddie Kingston was doing commentary, and but nonetheless, it still could have been even up 3-on-3, because Kingston was there to support Butcher and the Blade, and Pentagon came out as to support his members of El Triángulo de la Muerte, that being Pac and Rey Fenix, and pretty much the way how it was also, and they could have gotten on. And then, as mentioned at the once the Murder Hawk Monster came out, I wanted a piece of Eddie Kingston because of what took place in that contendership battle royal at All Out. It looks like pretty much Kingston is making more enemies within AEW. But now the question will be, who will get to him first? Will it be the Murder Hawk Monster? Will it be the Bastard? It's like pretty much Kingston's gonna make more enemies, but thinking that he has the backup of the Butcher and the Blade, he'll feel untouchable. But nonetheless, Eddie Kingston is pretty much gonna wallow in the pool of his own filth. But that's pretty much what's gonna happen. It's like he's gonna get his comeuppance sooner or later. And all I got to say is that, I mean, this I'm gonna call this a temporary alliance of sorts with the Murder Hawk Monster and Triángulo de la Muerte. But nonetheless, Eddie Kingston is gonna feel like a marked man, and it's only a matter of time before they rip him to shreds.
But it's like I mentioned, numerous shows ago, we have a battle